Lindsey Graham suddenly died over the weekend. The senator died of what's being reported by the Wall Street Journal anyway as an aortic tear due to cardiovascular disease. Graham's office announced the findings on Sunday, said the death certificate will remain pending until all toxicological and microscopic testing is completed. Test results could take weeks. Emergency responders sent to Graham's home Saturday night performed CPR on an individual suffering cardiac arrest, according to dispatch. Shortly before 8:30 p.m. Saturday, D.C.'s fire and EMS responded to a report of chest pains at a home on South Capitol Street, just a few blocks from the Capitol. Public records lists one of those as Lindsey Graham's address. Minutes later, officials radioed that a caller who reached 911 on a call, an unidentified woman said she wasn't in the home at the time, was driving from Baltimore to the address, had dispatchers at her front door, and it was unlocked. So sadly, that's, I guess, the details as we know them right now of Lindsey Graham's passing. Stephen Miller, one of the president's chief aides, wrote a really heartfelt tribute to Lindsey Graham. I'm going to read that to you in a minute, but it bears repeating that the American left, they give no quarter, they give no sympathy, they give no moment of time for reflection, or they never quit, they never lay down their arms, they never stop advancing. So when you run into somebody who says, oh, can't we get along? Can't we just have more bipartisanship? Why does it always have to be so much fighting? You know, can't we have, why can't Republicans and Democrats come together on something? Well, listen to Margaret Cho. She's a committed, avowed left-wing wackadoo, supposed comic. Give me number 86 here. Here's how she and many leftists, upon the news of hearing Lindsey Graham died Saturday night into Sunday morning, here's how she talked about Lindsey Graham.
Bye, Lindsey. Bye, Lindsey Graham. From the closet to the coffin. Real seamless. Real seamless. Also, yeah, Mitch McConnell. So it's Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. It does happen in threes. Hope.
Pretty sick. Not surprising, but pretty sick. And just worth remembering. Bye,
Lindsey. Bye.
It's pretty worth. It's just worth remembering that that's what makes these people tick. That's how mentally ill and unbalanced they are. They're so full of hatred politically. There's just no decency left. It's why they've got to be defeated, and it's why people like me, anyway, have very little time for the Senate dragging their heels on basic things like the Save America Act. Because we know that if people like that, with mentalities like that, get in charge of the United States Senate, they will think not a moment about getting rid of the filibuster and passing whatever whacked out, wild-eyed, crazy agenda they want. And they're not going to sit around and ask for your permission or talk about rules and how they don't want to break traditions and norms. That's as broken and demented as it gets. And there's not a bit of humility in it at all. There's not a bit of reflection in it at all. Unapologetically, full steam ahead for those people. Never forget, if you're politically interested in any way, what you're up against in the American left. That's their attitude every day. Found a clip of Lindsey Graham defending Justice Kavanaugh. And it really is, you know, whatever you want to say about Lindsey Graham, many times he was very entertaining. And when it came to defending people like Justice Kavanaugh from the unbelievable, withering attacks, completely unsubstantiated, that he received when he was going through the confirmation process, here's just some of Lindsey Graham's finest moments in number 83 here. Just a little walk down memory lane of what he was capable of when the cameras were rolling and he had to step up to the plate.
Are you aware that at 9:23 on the night of July the 9th, the day you were nominated to the Supreme Court by President Trump, Senator Schumer said, 23 minutes after your nomination, I will oppose Judge Kavanaugh's nomination with everything I have. I have a bipartisan, and I hope a bipartisan majority will do the same. The stakes are simply too high for anything less. Well, if you weren't aware of it, you are now. Did you meet with Senator Dianne Feinstein on August 20th?
I did meet with Senator Feinstein.
Did you know that her staff had already recommended a lawyer to Dr. Ford?
I did not know that.
Did you know that her and her staff had this allegations for over 20 days?
I did not know that at the time.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Are you a gang rapist?
No.
I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham, that you knew about it and you held it. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None. She's as much of a victim as you are. God, I hate to say it because these have been my friends. But let me tell you, when it comes to this, you're looking for a fair process. You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend.
Pretty classic Lindsey Graham. When he's right, he's right. And when he was on fire, there were few that prosecuted better than he did. Stephen Miller, as I was mentioning earlier, the president's chief aide in the White House, wrote a pretty heartfelt tribute and profound tribute to Lindsey Graham. And I thought I would just read it to you in full because it was really well written. And again, this is from Lindsey Graham. He says, at the end of a particularly thrilling and rollicking meeting in the Oval Office, Lindsey Graham turned to the room and said, I've never had this much fun in my life. And I can't describe to you how much joy President Trump's leadership and friendship brought to Lindsey Graham, writes Stephen Miller. Meetings with Graham at the White House were filled with camaraderie, kinship, and uproarious laughter. As heartbreaking as his sudden passing is, I hope it will bring some measure of comfort to those who cherished him, to know just how much he was living his dream every single day. Very rarely in life do you get to be exactly where you want to be, when you want to be there, with those you want to be with, and doing precisely what you want to do. And that was every moment for Lindsey Graham, writes Stephen Miller. When President Trump won in November of 2024, Lindsey was excited, elated, determined. He couldn't wait to spearhead work as the Budget Committee chairman on the reconciliation bill that would cement President Trump's most important campaign promises. Miller continued, I'll never forget the Senate lunch when a couple of senators were a tad off the program. And Lindsey, in his own way, made sure everyone was on the same side by the time we left. It was a glorious thing to witness. He knew how to move a room. Miller continued, Lindsey was a senator's senator. The job was everything to him. Truly did he believe in the splendor of the office and the noble lineage behind it, of which he was the worthy heir. He was a senator in the mold of those who fashioned the institution, some who still had the ability in a heated exchange to use rhetorical power to change the course of events. I'd add kind of like he did in that clip we just played of the Kavanaugh hearings. And Stephen Miller continued by saying, we will never forget that legendary Kavanaugh moment. We rarely think that we are out of time with our friends. So while there is a lot more I wish I could have had time to say to Lindsey, I am glad that more than once, Stephen Miller writes, that I told him more than once what that particular moment meant to the whole nation and why he was the only senator who could have done it with such utter perfection. Most importantly, Miller writes, I had the chance to tell him on many occasions what his friendship meant to me and all of us. There was never once a time he didn't answer a call and lend whatever assistance was required. It was never a question with Lindsey. He believed deeply in the code of friendship and loyalty. The fact that Lindsey started out as a political opponent, only to become the president's most steadfast and faithful supporter, underscores that Lindsey believed emphatically in the voice of the people. There's a lot more I'd like to say. Stephen Miller concludes by saying, his passing at a time when he'd never been more dynamic is unexpected and is shocking. In many respects, Lindsey was the last of a breed of American senator who we may not see again for a very long time. He lived every minute in the arena, a political gladiator to the very last. More than anything now, our thoughts are with his sister, nieces, and loved ones. We pray that God will ease their sorrow and heal their pain. Lindsey can never be replaced and will never be forgotten. Those are the words of Stephen Miller, President Trump's aide at the White House. Nancy Mace, the former, well, I guess she's still the current representative from South Carolina, had an unsuccessful run in the primary for governor there in South Carolina. There's now serious talk that she may well become a potential nominee. Whoever it is in South Carolina that's chosen by their governor will just simply fill out Graham's term. There will still need to be an election. So exactly how does that work? Nancy Mace, give me number 85 here, if you would, please, Aaron. Here's Nancy Mace talking a little bit about her role in this, if any role in this, if she's legitimately a shot. Is she just floating her own name? Nobody knows for sure. But here's what the Congresswoman Nancy Mace had to say about potentially stepping in and filling this seat.
I know that right now we're all just stunned that this has happened. Nobody was ready for it. And there are a lot of folks mourning across the state of South Carolina and across the country tonight.
Longer term, he was on the ballot this fall. You ran for governor. Are you considering running for his seat eventually?
I would say right now, my focus is on South Carolina. I think we're all still just sitting here stunned and shocked that this has happened, and we're mourning his loss. I'm never going to shut the door. I love the state of South Carolina. You only live once, and if the people of South Carolina would like me to serve in that capacity, I'll certainly take a look at it. But right now, I just want to focus on him and his legacy, what he did for the state. He was sort of like, I always envisioned him that he would live to 100, that he would be serving South Carolina like Strom Thurmond for decades and bring home all the resources we would ever need. And then some, which is what he did in his career. And that's what we're focusing on right now, is his life, his legacy, his legend, as Trump so well aptly described this morning on all of his TV interviews.
So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. Odds are whoever it is that replaces Lindsey Graham will certainly be a conservative. Will they be a Trump antagonist? Will they be someone who will tack right and help push through? President Trump said yesterday in that phone call with Meet the Press that one of the last things they talked about before hanging up was Lindsey Graham alluding to the Senate nearly being done with the SAVE Act, that they could, in fact, get that thing done. Now, is that entirely clear? No. How they get there, I don't know. But did Lindsey Graham tell the president that there's something going on, that Thune's figured something out? Look, let's hope that's the case. But with Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham now down, the Senate becomes a really interesting mathematical problem. It was already a mathematical problem for Republicans. So whoever the governor fills that seat with, that's going to be a vote that will become pretty important. And we hope that the South Carolina governor chooses wisely in the short term.